Sundown here, coming at you with another video. Can you subscribe real quick to my channel and then click on that bell notification so you notified every single time I post another video? I apologize in advance for any glare on my glasses. We just gonna have to learn to ignore it because your girl cannot see right now. There is a very constant debate going on about the difference between heat damage and heat training, and is heat damage and heat training the same thing? The main reason why most are confused on the difference between heat training and heat damage is because most of us look at everything from a vanity metrics perspective. And what does that mean? That means that for the most part we view the health of our hair based on the way that our curls look. And in my opinion, that's one of our main issues, so let me explain. Before we can talk about heat damage to the natural curl pattern, let's first talk about what makes hair curly in the first place. There are two factors that lead to your hair being curly, one being genetics and two being the inner structure of the hair. For example, the first thing, when we're talking about genetics, which is the thing that most people talk about, we are talking about the size of the follicle. The size of the follicle determines the size of the follicle is going to widely determine the way that the hair shaft is shaped. People of Asian descent normally have a follicle that is 100% round, like completely round. So the hair comes out naturally straight because it has to go straight down, because it only has to go straight down. There's nothing squishing or anything like that. And then the more you go down the line, the follicle gets smaller and smaller, making a tighter curl. So when we're talking about somebody with extremely curly hair, you have a follicle that is real tight, girl, like that shape of the follicle is going to be determined by your genetics, right? But there's something else that goes into it, because even though our bodies are structured a certain way, right, there are still certain things that we can do to change it, just like there's certain things that people can do to change the color of their skin, right? It still doesn't change what makes your skin light or dark, right? You being able to change your pigment. So when it comes to the hair shaft, you can change the shape of the hair shaft, and this is on both ends. So if you are a person who has naturally straight hair and you want to give your hair some type of curl pattern, what you would do is get a perm, right? And when you get a perm, this is where perm rods come from. Here on YouTube, we use perm rods for a lot of different things, but their original origin is to give women with naturally straight hair a type of curl pattern, right? And then after that, what we ended up using them for, because black people are so innovative, what ended up happening was it went from just simply using them for perm rods to then using them for wave nouveau and the jerry curl, right? Because the formation of the jerry curl is just simply a mixture of a relaxer and a perm put together. You first relax the hair to take out all of the protein, right? We're gonna get to that in a second. And then after you take out the protein, you then implement the perm rods depending on what size you want the curls. And the different color curl rods, the curl patterns are differentiated between the different color perm rods, right? So once you end up selecting the new curl pattern, then you would go ahead and put the final solution on, and this is what they call permanent waving, right? Permanent waving, aka the jerry curl that was then discontinued and then turned into and then picked up by these two wonderful people, husband and wife, who started wave nouveau. They started their own version of what was once the jerry curl, right? And then today, you know, things have changed. It went from $45 to, you know, $1,200, but that's neither here nor there. Moving along, now that you know how to change the curl pattern if you have naturally straight hair, and mind you, people who with naturally straight hair, them changing their curl pattern and getting curls, that is something that was done long before black women ever thought to take out the protein in their hair with a relaxer. Way before Black women ever thought to relax their hair, women were changing the natural texture of their hair to put the curls in. All right, really hope that makes sense. This glare is driving me crazy, but we getting witty. So now that we know how to get curls in your hair if your hair is naturally straight, and then talk about how to remove the curls from your natural hair if your hair is naturally curly. And there are two safe ways to do this. The first way to do it is with a relaxer. We all know about that, right? And with a relaxer, if done properly, not necessarily by a professional, but if done properly, is safe. There are so many women who have hair that is down their back and it is relaxed, honey. Having relaxed hair does not mean that your hair is unhealthy. We'll talk about that in another video. So we have, you know, you doing a relaxer, getting a relaxer, depending on your density and your porosity. And that's how we're picking in a hair salon. A lot of people don't know this because if you pay a professional to do it, it's her job to know that. But when we're talking about medium relaxers, mild relaxers, super relaxers, this is when we are getting into the porosity level. So I'm gonna pick your mild relaxer, your medium relaxer, and your high relaxer based on the level of porosity, right? Somebody who has low porosity hair, you're the one who's gonna get high because it's really hard to even open the cuticle to get anything done. But somebody with high porosity hair getting a relaxer, they're gonna get a medium to very mild relaxer. Why? Because the cuticle's already open. So if I put a high relaxer on it, or like a super relaxer on high porosity hair, I'm going to instantly bust out the cuticle. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Whenever they did all of these cases, everybody like, oh my God, what you guys don't understand is whenever they do these studies and publish them in a journal, y'all need to understand that study was not done on millions and billions of Black women across the centuries. No, they had a select few of women, probably no more than like 100 women, if even that. Sometimes these studies can have as little as 5 to 10 people in them, right? And what they do, they will look at all of these people and just make all of these tests. And after they do not make the test, but do all of these tests, and after they get the test, they put all of the data together. But that does not mean that relaxers across the board. No, because most of the women that they were doing these tests on that ended up getting fibroids from relaxers were women that did relaxers at home by themselves, and women that went to women that acted as professional hairstylists but did not base their scalps properly. Relaxers done wrong are the type that cause those types of illnesses. The same for anything that you do. Anything that you do wrong can actually do more harm than good, and relaxers are no different, right? So relaxers, like I said, that is the first form of changing the natural curl pattern to remove the curls, right? And the second way is heat training. Now, there are different levels of heat training, just as there are different levels of relaxers. Just like you have a mild relaxer, a medium relaxer, and a super relaxer, you have a mild level of heat training, a medium level of heat training, and a max level of heat training. So the mild level of heat training is what most are familiar with and what most hairstylists, professional hairstylists that know what they're doing, professional hairstylists and cosmetologists that know what they're doing are able to perform. Where the title of the service is exactly what it sounds like. You are heat training your hair to have heat, right? To have heat-based styles. So that way your hair isn't converting back as much. Your hair is getting used to being in this state, because remember, we have 3 bonds holding the hair together. The disulfide bond, which is only broken by chemicals, the hydrogen bond, which is broken by water, and the salt bond, which is broken by highly acidic products, right? So when we are doing a silk press, we are dealing with the hydrogen bond only. When the hair is wet, the hydrogen bond is broken and waiting for new direction. That is why you see most silk press artists follow the same type of patterns and the same things for the services, because it is imperative that we set that bond, that we're setting the hydrogen bond. When we are talking about setting the hydrogen bond, or when we're talking about heat training in the hair, baby, heat training is about nothing but the hydrogen bond in the hair. So it is anything but fake science. All right, a mild level heat training would be most likely straightening your hair maybe like once a month, right? In my opinion, is mild heat training. Just simply getting your hair used to having a somewhat of a pattern of being straight, right? You don't have plans to wear your hair straight. You don't have plans to wear your hair straight the majority of the time. You just want to wear your hair straight every blue moon. So you begin mildly heat training your hair, straightening your hair once a month, right? That's mild, a mild version of heat training. But then let's say you want to be a little bit more aggressive with your heat training, where you think you kind of want to wear your hair straight the majority of the time. Maybe you want to do 2 weeks, you want to do the majority of the month with your hair straight, and maybe like 1 week out of every month with the protective style or something like that, or with your hair in a ponytail, a protective style, let's keep it there, or with your hair in a protective style. Then you're a person that I would say you can go ahead and straighten your hair like every 3 weeks, right? You can straighten your hair every 3 weeks, and then that 4th week of the month you just kind of rest a little bit, and instead of straightening your hair, you can give it a blowout. You can just give your hair a blowout. But if you're somebody who's aggressively heat training their hair, and most people who are aggressively heat training their hair have very thick hair, and with having that very thick hair, they have made the decision, or you have made the decision, that you actually want to wear your hair straight the majority of the time. Like, not even the majority of the time. You want to wear your hair straight all the time, like, period. That's it. That's what you want to do, but you still want to do it in a healthy manner, right? Without giving yourself heat damage, which I'm getting to next. Without actually giving yourself heat damage, you would be a person that would straighten your hair every 2 weeks. I personally do not recommend anybody straightening their hair any more than every 2 weeks, because this is when we begin to get into heat damage. So I want us to, so yeah, I got the camera back on. Listen, we doing what we can today. We're doing what we can. So let's talk about, why don't we read the definition of what damage is before we even say the word heat damage, right? So what is damage? Damage, to cause damage, to injure or harm, to reduce the value or usefulness of. The only time the value of the hair shaft is decreased in any way, shape, or form is when an follicle is damaged in some type of way, or if the hair shaft has any holes or splits in it. So if you process your hair properly, whether it's with a relaxer or with a flat iron, if you flat iron your hair and you're heat training your hair, flat ironing your hair on a regular basis, and your curls are gone, right? You don't have any curls, but there are no holes or no splits, no tears or no rips in the hair shaft, your hair is not damaged, because that definition of something being damaged means that when it is no longer able to perform the things that it was able to perform before, right? So then some would say like, oh, well, it's no longer able to curl, well, it's damaged. Well, in reality, our curls, they have a vanity metrics, yes, but when somebody doesn't have a curl pattern anymore, that doesn't mean that their hair is no longer strong, because whether your hair is curly or straight, your hair is weakest when it is wet. It is most vulnerable when it's wet, and the more protein you have in your hair, the more you have to lose. So when people say, oh, black hair is so fragile, our hair is so fragile, it's not that black hair is fragile, it's that black hair has more to lose. because the curlier the hair is, the more protein lives within the hair shaft, right? The more protein you can remove, the more protein you have living there. So it is fragile in the sense of there is more of a chance that you can lose that protein, because other braces, you don't have protein, so you don't have anything to lose. It's not that one is more fragile than the other. One has more things to lose than the other. I really hope that that makes sense. So when it comes to your hair and the curls being gone, it is literally all a determining factor of how much protein is living within the hair shaft. And if you are heat training your hair, you are removing heat, you are removing protein from the hair shaft. And as long as when you are removing the protein from the hair shaft, there are no holes or splits or cuts or anything caused on the hair shaft or the scalp or the follicle, there is no heat damage, because there is no damage present. That is the difference between heat damage and heat training.